Has the transfer not happened yet? Fulfill your motherly duties.
What? I'm not your mom though? Huh? At my declaration of not being her mother, Mary hesitated for a moment. Her face, selfishly demanding money, had begun to resemble that of my mother-in-law and Kevin's.
It's because of your affair that our family fell apart, so take responsibility.
Hearing Mary spout lies as if they were truths, it seems she hasn't yet been told the actual story. No matter how much she's been influenced by my mother-in-law and Kevin, Mary's personality has become severely distorted. Mary might be a pitiful child, but she's at an age where she can be confronted with the truth. Given what I've been through, this would be a minor thing. I held back Henry, who was trying to support me, and faced Mary directly. I'm Jennifer Smith. 48 years old. Next time, there's a deep-sea fish exhibit at the aquarium. How about we go together over the weekend? Really? Let's definitely go. I'll book the tickets. Now, I live happily with my beloved husband, Henry, but I'm actually remarried. My previous marriage was truly like going through hell. I still occasionally have nightmares about my ex-husband Kevin, my former mother-in-law, and my daughter Mary. In my life with Kevin, my previous spouse, I lived with my mother-in-law while raising our daughter, Mary. However, my mother-in-law and I just didn't get along. Kevin and I got along because we were alumni of the same university, but it seems that didn't sit well with my mother-in-law.
A woman like you getting an education means nothing. A cunning daughter-in-law like you is not suitable for my son.
Every time we met, it was just a stream of snide comments. Moreover, she would always find an excuse to call me over to do chores or go shopping. Kevin initially stood up for me. Mom is from an older generation, so she's a bit set in her ways. Sorry about that. He would apologize and take me out to make up for it, but it seems he grew tired of it. His efforts to protect me from mother-in-law's bullying became lackluster. Hey, can't you do something about your mom? She asked me to come clean again, but I'm working too, so I don't have time. It can't be helped, right? That's just how she is. Besides, she doesn't mean any harm, so you should manage it wiser. His indifferent attitude became more apparent. I thought about separating from mother-in-law, but both Kevin and I were working. And finding childcare was tough. My mother-in-law was happy to take care of Mary, so ending the living arrangement wasn't realistic. However, in hindsight, letting Mary spend so much time with my mother-in-law turned out to be a mistake. By the time Mary was old enough to understand, my mother-in-law's values had been deeply instilled in her. Mary was affectionate towards me until she was about 2 years old. Probably because Kevin and mother-in-law didn't want to deal with the terrible 2-year-old kid, where she would cry and scream about anything. Watching a fussy Mary fall asleep would make the exhaustion from work and the mental strain from dealing with my mother-in-law disappear. I guess I did love kids after all. However, as Mary turned 3, started speaking more, and began attending preschool, she gradually became more selfish. Yet, my mother-in-law and Kevin, who spoiled Mary, never scolded her. Discipline, which naturally means scolding my child when she does something wrong, has become my area of expertise. For instance, when we went to the supermarket, Mary often ran around the store.
Mary! I told you not to run around in the supermarket.
It could be a nuisance to the store if she bumped into products, and she could get hurt herself. That was why I cautioned her. However, Kevin and my mother-in-law would immediately interject. There's no need to get so worked up and scold her. It's natural for children to run around lively. It's the stores that have a problem if they find children to be a nuisance. That's right. Look at Mary go. She's going to grow up healthy, isn't she? With them defending Mary like this, whenever I scolded her, she would run to them.
If you don't scold her properly when she does something wrong, it's not good for her.
Don't get so hysterical. She's just a child. Besides, if you were a proper mom, maybe Mary would behave better, don't you think? Talking to Kevin about how to raise Mary always ended with it somehow being my fault. Mary also liked sweets, And beyond the amount of sweets I had originally decided on, my mother-in-law and Kevin were secretly giving her more. It got to the point where she failed her health examinations. Even then, my scolding fell on deaf ears. "Mary, your mom wouldn't let you have honey when you were a baby. Little kids love sweet things, and she took that away from you. What a mean mom, huh?"
Yeah. I hate mommy for saying I can't have sweets.
Botulinum toxin? That's not a big deal, right? Don't be so uptight about a little candy. You can just adjust with cooking. They were not only ignorant about allergies but also seemed not to appreciate the efforts I had made to protect Mary all this time. And they always sought Mary's agreement, so she never reflected on her actions. Instead, as Mary grew to dislike me more with each passing day, my mother-in-law doting only reinforced her bad behavior, making her mean streak all the more apparent. "My candy is gone." "Oh. There it is," Mary would say, pointing to my share of the sweets after she had finished hers. When I scolded her for this, thinking it would affect Mary's character in the future, she screamed and cried, "It's not my fault." My husband and mother-in-law, feeling sorry for her, comforted her by giving her sweets and starting to play fun games with her. This had become a loop. Eventually, Mary grew into a grade schooler and, it seemed, was able to excel in her studies more than others. Particularly, teaching her the abacus seemed to help. She became good at mental arithmetic and math. Around the age of 10, she was even invited to a regional TV quiz show and advertised as a prodigy, which made Mary overly confident. As a result, not only my mother-in-law and Kevin but also relatives doted on her.
Mary definitely takes after Kevin. She's so smart. Absolutely. Mary is our pride and joy. Maybe it was my teaching that did it. She could be a doctor or a lawyer in the future. Of course, I should be. I mean, it would be weird if I couldn't handle such simple problems.
While I was pleased to see Mary's talents flourish to this extent, her arrogant attitude became increasingly apparent. "I know more words than you, so I'm amazing. Why can't you do this?" Mary compared herself to a 5-year-old relative and made the child's mother angry. I ended up apologizing them profusely. Trying to make Mary apologize was futile. She insisted she did nothing wrong, so she saw no need to apologize. "Mary, you can't look down on people. Even if you're good at your studies, it's meaningless if you don't understand how others feel. What's wrong with telling the truth? If you're upset, why don't you become a genius like me?" Mary would retort with such blatant defiance. That attitude started to be directed towards me as well, especially when I scolded Mary. The fact that my mother-in-law and Kevin always sided with her only worsened her behavior. "Hey, I need money for some cosmetics. I can't give a grade schooler that much money. You just bought a $100 game the other day.
So? You couldn't even do simple calculations at my age. I'm telling Grandma,"
she would retort dismissively. If I refused to give her money, my mother-in-law would complain, and ultimately, she would end up giving Mary the allowance. This is why Mary's discipline was going nowhere. With private middle school entrance exams on the horizon, she became even more conceited, making persuasion extremely difficult. Consulting Kevin was futile, he was too overjoyed to listen. "If this continues, she'll become despised. She won't listen to me, so I want you to firmly tell her. You're just stupid, and that's why you don't get along. She truly is my child." Kevin was too caught up in Mary's potential future and fell deeper into gambling.
"Have you been to the gambling again? We're not wealthy enough to be splurging like this."
"I'm only spending within limits for fun, don't order me around. Plus, Mary will earn plenty in the future." Kevin was unreliable, and the ongoing disputes with Mary, along with my poor relationship with my mother-in-law, were mentally exhausting me. Mary's haughty demeanor towards her schoolmates led to troubles, prompting calls from her teacher. She prided herself on cornering others with her logic, leaving adults at a loss on how to deal with her. My memories of this period are patchy, likely due to the strain of my relationship with Mary. and then came the fateful day. On this day, Mary received her private middle school entrance exam results, passing with flying colors, and the house was filled with joy. However, as the mother-in-law planned to go out for a celebratory dinner, Mary uttered unbelievable words. "Don't come, old woman. You'll just ruin the fun." "What do you mean?" I asked, my mind going blank for a moment. Never did I imagine being referred to as old woman by my own daughter. "She doesn't want to eat with you." "Indeed, we don't need a nagging old woman around." "That's right. A cheeky woman like you isn't family."
That's exactly what it means. An old woman who only says mean things have no rights. And dressing up for nothing, how lame.
Laughing scornfully, the three of them left for the restaurant I had reserved. Left alone in my best clothes, I crumbled at the entranceway. I had reached my limit. Being disregarded to this extent, I had no confidence in continuing to live like this. While they were out dining, I went to the municipal office to pick up a divorce form. I decided to leave the divorce paper in the living room and return to my parents' house. Later, I received an email from Kevin. "Hey, what's this about? Divorce, seriously? You got mad over that? I just can't keep up with you all anymore. You take care of Mary. To think you could have been the mom of a prodigy and you're wasting it. Fine, I'll give you the divorce. I don't care at all whether Mary is a prodigy or not. What mattered most to me was escaping that house as quickly as possible." Hoping to speak to Mary one last time, I asked Kevin to put her on the phone. "Divorce? Fine with me. If it means I don't have to hear you nagging anymore, then rather, it feels like I should say thank you." I had hoped for some words of remorse, but expecting that was foolish of me. Nothing I had taught Mary had resonated with her. "So, you're not needed." By then. The call was abruptly ended, and my over 10-year marriage ended just like that. My mother was surprised when I suddenly returned home, but after I explained everything, she had tears. "I can't forgive anyone who bullies my precious daughter. Forget about having a granddaughter, just stay here." She welcomed me back. For the first time in a long while, I felt cared for and cried all night. I had remarried, trying to forget that terrible marriage and started a new life. Just as my life had stabilized almost 6 years later, a call came through on my smartphone. I was at work and couldn't answer, so it went to voicemail. Thinking it might be work-related since there was no name, I played the message. But the voice that came through was unmistakably hers. "Hey, it's Mary. Why didn't you pick up right away?" I nearly dropped the phone in shock. What could Mary possibly want after all this time? "I'll forgive you for not picking up the phone, so I'll make it quick. Give me some money. Deposit $20,000 into the account I'm about to tell you." The message ended with those words and an account number. I stood there, mouth agape. To call out of the blue demanding such a large sum of money was outrageous. Besides, I should have no ties or obligations to my daughter anymore. I feared getting involved again might disturb my peaceful life. I decided to act as if I hadn't heard the message. Ignoring it seemed the best response, but Mary's demands for remittances only increased as days passed. "The phone's been ringing, is something up?" "It's nothing, really." Henry, my current husband, looked curiously at the persistently ringing phone. A few days later, after a date at the aquarium with Henry, we decided to grab a meal at a nearby food court. As I was walking towards Henry with a sandwich meal, I was suddenly struck from the side. After hearing a dry sound, I felt a throbbing pain and realized I had been slapped as I saw the remnants of the sandwich scattered on the floor.
"Jennifer, are you okay?"
Henry, having witnessed the whole scene, rushed over to me in a panic. Looking to the side from where the blow had come, I saw the face of a grown-up Mary. She seemed to have gained a significant amount of weight, likely due to poor dietary habits. Given that Kevin and my mother-in-law constantly indulged her preferences, it was no surprise she had put on weight. "Mary?
Why are you forming a new family when you already have a child like me?" Go to hell and reflect on your actions. I'll never forgive you.
As I stood there in confusion, Mary continued to berate me. Why are you doing this, and am I not your family anymore?
But you were my mom, right? It's your fault you got divorced because of your affair. I've had to live with the stigma of coming from a broken home, so you owe me compensation.
Mary's irritation was evident as she stamped her feet increasingly louder.
Has the transfer not happened yet? Fulfill your motherly duties.
What? I'm not your mom though? Huh? At my declaration of not being her mother, Mary hesitated for a moment. Hearing Mary spout lies as if they were truths, it seems she hasn't yet been told the actual story. Mary might be a pitiful child, but she's at an age where she can be confronted with the truth. Given what I've been through, this would be a minor thing. I held back Henry, who was trying to support me, and faced Mary directly. What? You're still hung up on the past? You still have an obligation to pay child support, you know. That's where you're wrong. I'm not biologically related to you. What? Don't start with that nonsense just because you want to escape responsibility. It's your fault for cheating, isn't it? Me, cheat? That's absurd, but Kevin must have filled Mary's head with all sorts of lies. And despite the cruel words Mary had said to me over the phone during the divorce, she seemed to have conveniently forgotten all about that. Kevin must have told you things that suit him. The divorce wasn't because of any affair of mine. I was just fed up with you all.
Quit your excuses. I need money now, anyway.
Accepting such a ludicrous demand for $20,000 out of the blue was out of the question. Even if what you're saying is true, I can't just come up with a large sum of money all of a sudden. Why do you need it? Mary explained that she had successfully accepted by her choice of university but couldn't enroll because she couldn't afford the entrance fees and other expenses. So, she needed money for enrollment and other expenses after university admission.
Since then, Dad's been wasting money on gambling like water. You need to do something.
It seemed Kevin's gambling habit hadn't changed and had only gotten worse. Towards the end, he even started taking money from my wallet, making it clear how difficult it was to escape addiction. I sighed with a mix of relief and bitterness, thinking I really did well to leave.
What are you laughing at? I was called a prodigy, so hurry up and give me the money.
As I've been trying to tell you, I'm not your mom. Taking a moment, I then shared the truth with Mary. I had always loved children and dreamed of having my own, but reality was cruel. Medical tests revealed I was unable to have children. After several tests and consultations at the gynecologist, the verdict was the same, and fertility treatments were not promising. My boyfriend at the time desperately wanted children, so we parted ways tearfully. It wasn't anyone's fault, and it was a mutual decision, but it left me devastated. I thought I would never be able to hold my own baby in my arms. That's when I met Kevin. He was shopping at the local supermarket, holding a baby, but he was clearly inexperienced. He was struggling with a crying baby while holding a bag containing eggs that had cracked and were making a mess inside the plastic bag. Seeing him like that, I couldn't help but approach and speak to him. Kevin's previous wife had left him after having an affair, leaving him struggling with the care of newborn Mary. Having taken care of my younger sister before, I was more experienced with babies than Kevin. Actually, I thought that if it was left to Kevin alone, they wouldn't be able to have a proper lifestyle. I've always enjoyed being involved with children, so before I knew it, visiting Kevin's apartment to check on Mary had become a habit. Gradually, I developed affection for both Kevin and Mary, which led to Kevin and me dating and eventually getting married. The truth about Mary's biological mother running away after an affair was too harsh, so Kevin and I decided to raise Mary under the assumption that I was her biological mother. We knew the truth would come out eventually when getting a passport or other opportunities that may require birth certificate, but by then, we hoped Mary would be mature enough to understand. At first, my mother was bewildered, but my enthusiasm for raising a child got through to her. Accepting my decision, she said, "If that's what you think is best, Jennifer, then do it." I'll try my best to think of Mary as my granddaughter. But this is how it turned out. In the end, I made my mother cry, which made me feel utterly ashamed. Having failed with Mary, I was downcast, wondering if I couldn't properly raise even one child, when my mother introduced me to Henry. After my previous marriage, I had pretty much given up on the idea of marrying again. But Henry was also divorced. Henry, like me, had been sought after as the heir to a company in his previous marriage, entering the mother-in-law as a son-in-law, only to be significantly tormented by his in-laws. His spouse didn't defend him, and he was constantly belittled by his in-laws, unable to lead a decent life. Deciding he couldn't be treated less than human, he left his heir status behind and divorced. Henry and I met by chance when we both had returned to our hometown. Initially, I wasn't interested, but perhaps because we both carried similar scars, I found Henry's company comfortable. Maybe it was our compatible wavelengths, but being together felt natural, and we eventually remarried. So, since I'm now a stranger to you, I can't provide any allowance. We never underwent any adoption formalities, so I have neither a legal nor moral obligation to you. It seems you're having a hard time, but it's no longer my concern since we're divorced. What do you mean by that? I hadn't heard anything about this. It's no surprise Mary didn't know, given the divorce chaos happened before I could tell her the truth. Kevin probably painted me as the villain all along and couldn't bring himself to reveal the truth now. If you're struggling financially, why not ask those relatives who used to praise you as a prodigy? If you need an allowance, ask your grandma or someone.
That's not reliable at all. Neither grandma nor dad can be counted on.
From what Mary shared, after she entered a private middle and high school integrated school, she found herself surrounded by peers who were far more academically inclined. In her local area, Mary's grades were celebrated, but in middle and high school, she found herself towards the lower end of her class. Unable to boast to anyone, she ended up being reprimanded for her arrogant attitude instead. Her grades began to decline, and so did her father and grandmother's expectations. No longer the center of attention, Mary's frustrations grew, leading to a more twisted personality.
I won't forgive anyone who ridicules me. I'll get into a good university and show them all.
University is a place for learning, not for proving points to others. Do it for yourself. Plus, there are scholarship programs available. I wasn't wealthy when I went to college myself. I balanced work and study to make ends meet. Still, Mary grumbled on. Sensing something was off, I asked her directly. Hey, did you really get into university? Which one? If you show me the acceptance letter, I might consider it. Mary stammered out a few words, but then came clean, as if she thought she would get paid if she told the truth. She had been caught cheating during the university interview, leading to immediate disqualification. Mary was labeled a cheater. Because she had looked down on others, she ended up with no allies at all. She didn't send application to any other university, so there were no universities she could enter. Moreover, she hadn't engaged in job hunting, so she was also unable to start working with just a high school diploma.
It's absurd that cheating would mess up my life. Everyone's just jealous of a genius like me.
Interviews are supposed to be fair to everyone. Yet, it's only natural to face consequences for cheating in such crucial moments that could determine the course of one's life. Despite this, Mary had the audacity to remain unrepentant.
I thought you might have your reasons, so I listened quietly, but to have done something so outrageous. How could I possibly give you money for that reason? If you're out of money, then you need to work. I can't work with just a high school diploma. My pride won't allow it. It'll kill me not to get into a good university.
Such misplaced pride is better off gone. Seeing Mary throw a tantrum before me made me feel pity rather than anger. But I never wanted to revisit that hell again. Do you think you did nothing wrong? Remember how horribly you treated me? After being hated for 10 years, it's too late to seek a mother. I wanted to know if Mary felt any remorse knowing the truth. Had she shown a hint of apology, I might have considered caring for her a bit.
I don't remember such old stuff. I was smarter and just a child, so it's excusable. Don't lecture me when you abandoned your role as a mother over my cute rebellious phase.
Instead of apologizing, Mary shifted the blame to me. So quick to blame others. You're just like your dad and grandma.
Shut up. You abandoned your protective duty. Just give me the money without fussing.
I watched Mary, who was spewing such abusive language, with an icy stare. I couldn't help but notice her resemblance to Kevin. Spoiled and coddled like a princess by her grandmother and her father, Mary grew up to be hopelessly selfish and undisciplined. Her arrogance was now beyond correction. There was nothing I could do anymore.
Don't you pity me, lied to by my own father? My talents could have benefited this country.
Your talents need not bloom. You're irrelevant to my life. More importantly, your personality would be the real issue if you were to emerge into society. I delivered my words deliberately, biting each one. Hearing my words, Mary was speechless at first, but then reddening with rage, grabbed a nearby chair to swing at me. However, thanks to Henry's vigilance, he protected me, allowing me to dodge the chair. The chair struck another table, causing a loud noise that made the surrounding area buzz with commotion.
Stop it. You might have been Jennifer's daughter once, but now you're just a stranger causing harm. Damn you, spouting such nonsense. Who do you think you are, lecturing me like that? If you've been through what I've been through, you should painfully understand this anxiety. Yet, you forget that feeling and pompously lecture me. It's disgusting.
It's all your own doing, isn't it? Stop this shameful behavior once and for all. People are watching. Startled, Mary glanced around and realized that the commotion had drawn the attention of those nearby. Among them, there were students pointing their cameras at Mary, saying, "Whoa, check out the crazy woman."
It seemed she could no longer cause a scene, and Mary said, yeah, you just love to belly the weak, don't you? Leaving a child in trouble to fawn over some other man. Women really are their own worst enemies. Remember this.
With those parting shots, she fled the scene. Whether a food court employee alerted them or not, police officers soon arrived, and I explained the situation. With a table damaged and people willing to provide video evidence, there was no lack of proof. When I got home, I told Henry about the financial assistance requests I had been receiving from Mary for a while. I hadn't wanted to trouble him with this, and I apologized for keeping it to myself. Henry placed his hand over mine and said, "I married you knowing about your past. From now on, please tell me everything. I may not be young, but I will protect you." Thank you. I was so grateful I couldn't stop my tears. Perhaps my failed first marriage was orchestrated by fate so I could meet Henry. I felt truly happy thinking this. Later, I received a message from Kevin. Apparently, Mary had caused a disturbance at the food court, and he was being demanded to compensate for the damages. "Why did you refuse Mary's requests? She was your daughter, wasn't she? You heartless woman. How dare you demand motherhood from me after treating me so horribly? That child and I aren't even blood related. But the bond can't be broken that easily. Not helping your own daughter is inhumane." Kevin hadn't changed at all. In fact, he had been fired from his company for dipping into its funds to cover his gambling debts. Hounded by debt collectors and working tirelessly, he couldn't escape poverty.
It's all your fault for abandoning us. Take responsibility for our lives. Even Mom is angry at you.
There's no way I can do that. It seems like you even lied to set me up. We divorced because of my affair, right? No, that was just because I was sad you were gone. He probably used me as a scapegoat for Mary's frustrations by speaking ill of me. Hearing enough of his complaints, I sighed in frustration until Henry took the phone from me. Listening to you, it's revolting how self-centered your arguments are. Jennifer was forced to raise a child that wasn't even hers, and you didn't even try to protect her from mistreatment by your family. She's saying she doesn't want to deal with a man who wouldn't stand up for her.
You've stolen Jennifer from me, right? So she was cheating after all. I should demand alimony from you both.
This conversation is going nowhere. Your situation is entirely your own doing. Persist with this, and we'll consult a lawyer or the police. With a firm tone, Henry ended the call. After that, Kevin and his family's calls and messages came non-stop, but they ceased immediately after a lawyer got involved. Please, I'm begging you, loan sharks are making my life miserable. If you have any compassion, lend me some money. I don't need a poor family like this. Telling me to work, unbelievable. Hey, Mom, can I come live with you?
Your neglect has made our lives miserable. I can't just go out and work now, send money.
The content of the messages portrayed a dire situation for Mary and Kevin. Later, my mother told me that Mary had also shown up at my parents' house. Trying to elicit sympathy, Mary acted pitifully sweet. Hey, Grandma, I'm really suffering. I have no money, no food. Can I live here for a bit? My mother was furious at her audacity. After barely showing your face and now calling me Grandma, I find it disgusting. You've tormented my daughter to the bone, and now you dare come here. My mother vehemently turned Mary away. Mary ended up working, but her lack of social norms meant she was often reprimanded and quit repeatedly. The pride she had from being pampered and adored could not withstand the reality of work. Moreover, the internet's viciousness spread videos of her rampage, making finding employment even harder. Mary's life is set to be a difficult one. It might seem cold, but as an outsider, there's nothing I can do, nor do I want to help anymore. My life with Henry is what matters most to me. Jennifer, let's go on a picnic next time. I'll reserve a nice spot for us. Really? I'm looking forward to it. I'll make a special lunch. Henry offers me coffee, inviting me to another weekend date. While not lavish, these small joys are what we cherish, living our lives in tranquility. This is my greatest happiness, I thought, as I sipped my coffee and sighed contentedly.